For me, it is making a difference. It is helping my clients, whether they are a startup and then sometimes clients have come to me with just an idea, literally kind of scribbled some idea, and it's actually taking that idea, running with it, creating a brand and creating something tangible and seeing them fly. That to me gives me so much pleasure. It could be businesses that have been in business maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and then they want to kind of ramp up and take themselves to the next level. So for me, that's what drives me.
If you had spent 25 years in business as an entrepreneur running companies, imagine all of the lessons and knowledge that you would have amassed during that time. Well, you don't have to test your imagination too far today, because my guest has done exactly that. Vaishali Shah is joining me today. She is an international entrepreneur. She runs 2 businesses. One of them has been going for 25 years, the other for 19 years. So as I joke with her in a moment, over 40 years combined business experience there. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. We're going to touch on all sorts of topics, from entrepreneurship, lessons about business, the role of integrity in the workplace and in your leadership, cultural adaptability, remote work, the importance of client relationships, branding and marketing, values, trust. The list goes on and on, because there are so many lessons that Vaishali has to share with us. Really loved this conversation. I know you're going to get a lot out of it as well. And as always, do listen to the end. There will be links to go and learn more about Vaishali's businesses, the work that she does, and what she's doing this year to celebrate her 25th business anniversary.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Well, Vaishali, welcome to Leading with Integrity. It's lovely to have you on the show. It was worth the wait, I've no doubt. Welcome. Looking forward to chatting with you today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for asking me to be on your podcast today.
Yeah, of course. And in at the deep end, really, over to you. Tell us your business life story so far. What do you do today? Why do you do it? How did you end up doing it? All of those lovely things.
Sure, certainly. So I'm Vaishali. I run 2 businesses. I run Creative ID, which is my branding and marketing consultancy. I'm celebrating 25 years in business this year. Thank you. And Creative ID is all about helping clients be more visible, online, in print, on social. It's about getting them noticed for the right reasons by the right people. And I'm all about kind of joining the dots between branding, marketing, and customers. And I also run another business, Ananya Cards, which is an international stationery house. I've been running that for 19 years. And that's all the exclusive bespoke stationery for weddings, for corporate events, private parties, your own social stationery. So it's all that beautiful stationery for that.
Wow. Okay. So combined over 40 years then,
oh, gosh.
of business experience. Yeah.
Please don't age me, David.
Don't know. I mean, we're recording this about 3 days into my midlife crisis. I turned 40 at the weekend. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of experience. And running 2 businesses at once as well. I mean, does that ever get too much? I feel like that'd be too much for me.
See, for me, I like it. And actually, I'm running 2 businesses and also across 2 cities, across London and Dubai. But for me, I like it. I actually thrive on it. I'm not the kind of person who likes to do the same thing every day. So this gives me, I guess maybe as a creative, so this gives me that kind of excitement that every day is different. So for me, I think I've got into that routine that it works for me.
Oh, fair enough. And tell us a bit more of the career story. Like, what led you into these businesses? Where did the ideas for them come from? Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yes. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. My family business is actually 103 years old. So, yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to run my own business. but I also wanted to get outside experience. So after graduating, I worked for 4 years outside, externally, and then set up my business in January 2000. So I knew I wanted to do the business, wanted to run a business. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew it'd be business, but I had always an interest in marketing. So I thought it would be marketing, and always had an interest in languages, and I didn't want to be kind of restrictive. So my degree was international management and French. So I wanted that kind of European language included. And then when I graduated, I thought, well, that's not enough. I went to do the Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications because I wanted a kind of like professional body, as well as my university degree. And then I still thought that wasn't enough. So I thought, okay, I want to study design. So I studied design. So marketing is my first, and then I studied design kind of in the evenings. The first year of business, couldn't afford anyone, so I did the design myself. Not brilliant. But after that, I hired a team, and I focus on the marketing, and my team focus on the designing. So I guess, yes, I always knew I wanted to be in business. I wanted something that kind of had that European or that kind of international feel to it.
Interesting. So you studied French and then stayed in the UK.
No, well, see, the thing is, so for me, international is very much part of who I am. So I actually lived in Paris for 4 years. So I actually did my GCSEs. I did my international baccalaureate in Paris. So that international kind of upbringing was there. Then I did my degree in Manchester, international management and French. And as part of the degree, you spend a year in a business school in France. So again, I went back to France. I went to Lille to a business school. And then when I graduated, I actually then moved to Paris for a year to work. So now I don't use the French so much, but I have it, and I think it's a good skill. And as I said, that kind of international angle was always important to me.
Fair enough. That does make a bit more sense.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm always envious of people who are great with languages, because I'm very much not. And maybe it's just because I'm so English. I don't know. But I feel like as a group, we're bad at languages. I don't know. Maybe there's a historical context there that's probably best not talked about. Okay, so I'm going to avoid that tangent, and we're going to get back on track before I get myself in trouble. So, 25 years in business then. Congratulations. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again for the record. Over that time, what do you think are your most important lessons that you've learned from that business experience?
So there's quite a few lessons, but if I kind of share a few key ones, I'd say give to grow and the power of giving back. So that's something I kind of learned from an early age, from my parents, from my family, about making a difference, helping others, nurturing talent, whether that's kind of mentoring designers, and giving back to the community. So since day one, I give 10% of my profits to charity. And to celebrate the 25th anniversary, I'm actually donating £15,000 worth of branding and marketing pro bono across 3 charities. So that's my way of making a difference. And that's something that I've always kind of led with, about making a difference to my clients, to my team, and to the community. So I'd say that's kind of one of my lessons that I took kind of from day one. Another lesson I'd say is to know your values and your North Star, because the world is unpredictable, and certainly over 25 years, from economic crisis to the pandemic, I think knowing what your values are, because sometimes, you have to make, as a founder, some tough decisions. And I think knowing your values, certainly for me, it's that anchor and it's that star that kind of guides me to making those decisions. So for me, that's kind of important. I'd also say find your champions and celebrate them. So I'm very grateful for collaborations, for well-wishers, for peers, introducers of business. And for me, it's kind of respecting them and nurturing those client relationships or friendships. And also, you never know where your next champion is going to come from. So for me, kind of relationships has been something really important. I guess coming from a family business of 103 years, we have 3 generations worth of clients. So it's something that I learnt from an early age over the breakfast table about nurturing those relationships. So I'd say that's another key one. I'd also say a resilient and agile mindset is important because, as I alluded to, the world is changing, the economy is changing. When I started 25 years ago, we didn't have social media. The world was very, very different. I was designing for print, not for online. So I think having that agile mindset is important to kind of get you through business. It helped me, for example, when I set up my base in Dubai. I knew 3 people, but having that kind of agile mindset helped me kind of go through with that. So I'd say those are kind of key learnings, key lessons. I have lots more, but I'd say those are kind of some key ones.
I mean, they're great lessons. I think they. What often strikes me when I ask similar questions to business owners, they'll come out with their business lessons. Actually, maybe it's because of my bias, but in most cases, you can look at those and apply them to leadership as well. And I think everything you've said. So, I mean, the first one I think perhaps is the most important one because I feel like it's the one a lot of leaders overlook, that mindset of giving back and service first, and then also the building relationships aspect of it as well. Yeah, no, I love all of that, and I have to say you're really good at all of those in my experience so far.
Thank you very much. But it's also what I've seen. I mean, one, if I share a little anecdote, when I was at university, my father used to tear out from the newspaper and magazines any articles that he thought would be of interest and would post them to me at university. And that's something, and I always really appreciated that because he was reading it and thought, oh, this would be of interest to you. And that's something that I do with my clients, not the posting so much, but if I see something that a client, I think an interesting article, a podcast recommendation, a new restaurant, because I have a lot of clients in kind of in the food space, then I send that to them. And so for me, it's kind of relationships beyond the project. When the project finishes, for me, I try not to end that relationship. I try and kind of nurture that. So for me, that's kind of stood me in good stead. I have one client who's been with me all 25 years. I've got quite a few clients that have been with me over 10 years. So I think that kind of relationship building is certainly a lesson that I would share with others.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any relationship lasting 25 years is quite impressive, but where money's changing hands as well, and then given the context of those 25 years as well, I mean, with the financial crashes we've had, the pandemic and all of that, I mean, that's incredibly impressive. Was it your first ever client or was it
my second?
That'd be even better.
My second.
Oh, wow.
My first ever client was someone in the because it was 2000. It was in the .com industry. Great client, but then we know what happened with .com and technology. So this was my second client, July 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, cool. No, I am proud of that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hope they stay with you another 25 years.
Me too. Well, yes, me too.
You probably won't want to do it another 25 years, will you? But yeah.
Retirement, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the values piece, I mean, I feel like there's a story behind that lesson as well. Perhaps you can share a bit more insight into that. I mean, what are the values as well that you've come to, and how did you arrive at them?
Yes, thank you. So certainly integrity is an important value for me, and working through with integrity. So I have turned down clients that I feel that there's not a good match, because I want to kind of deliver and give the best. So integrity is something that's important to me. Again, it's something that I was brought up with. So that integrity and making a difference. So, gosh, now we're really getting deep. So my family, we've kind of built up. So philanthropy and giving back is something very important to myself and my family. So we've actually built over 100 schools, hospitals, orphanages, and wherever as a family we made money, we always kind of gave back. So that's something that I saw discussed at the breakfast table about giving back. And I mean, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, never even heard of CSR or anything like that. It was just this is, if you can help other people, then you should do that. Whether that's through money, whether that's through sharing your networks, whether that's through sharing something on social media, giving a platform to others. So that whole kind of giving back piece and integrity is something that's really, I feel, kind of part of my DNA. So I'd say that's the story, because that's what I saw. Now when I talk to people say about giving back as, oh, when I retire, or when I'm 70, when I've made my millions, and it's kind of put off for a later date. And the way I was brought up is that, like, do whatever you can now, and it's not always about writing a check. It's, as I said, it's about your networks, or introducing people, or what can you do to help or to mentor. So I think because I was brought up with that, so I'd say that's a key value for me and kind of everything I do in life and across my businesses. I'd say that's a key value. So kind of then linked to that, when I design as a kind of creative agency, is creativity with purpose. So again, it's not, oh, because this is in fashion, or because I want this for my portfolio, but actually, what does the client want? What is best for the client? And if I'm not the best for the client, I will say that to the client, that they should go somewhere else. So that's kind of that whole, now there's a lot of talk about purposeful brands and purposeful businesses, but for me, it started a long time ago about kind of creativity with purpose. And then I guess, I want to be seen as kind of approachable and friendly. There's something that's kind of as part of my kind of leadership style is to be personable, approachable. I'm not someone that micromanages. I'm somebody that gives autonomy and trust to my team. And I think that's what's important. So, for example, my senior designer has been with me for 15 years. And I think that hopefully, that stands for something, that even though we're not in the same country, so we're working remotely, but there is that trust. I have to trust her that she's doing the work. She has to trust me, but I give her that independence to work on projects. But I'm overseeing it, so I'm there, if, when she needs me. So that is also, important to me.
I mean, obviously they're great values. I'm definitely not going to disagree with the first one. You're in the right place. I mean, it's part of why this podcast is here as well, and kind of what led me down the solopreneur route as well, that whole integrity piece, because I feel like it's something that isn't given the importance it should be in a lot of businesses, dare I say the majority. And I think, I struggled with why. I think there's an element of the profit imperative, I suppose they call it, don't they? But then you look at the individuals within those kind of businesses, and most of them, if you ask them, like, what's important to you, they're not going to say making money for my boss, are they? They're going to give probably answers very similar to you or I would, about things like integrity, being able to sleep at night and not stress about my job, or whether I did the right thing yesterday, or whether the company's on the right side of this or that. But I think it's when it comes down to it, especially in the difficult times we've seen over those last 20, 25 years, when you're worried about the paycheck and keeping the roof over your head, it's so easy. We've all done it at some point in our careers to just say, well, I can't afford to worry about that right now. And I think that makes businesses such as yours, where you know those values, you understand why they are there, and you live by them, that much more important. And I think that should be the norm. It shouldn't be the exception. But sadly, I don't know, maybe it's 50-50 these days. I don't know. But
I know it's a really good insight, David. I don't think it is 50-50, sadly. And I think it's whether it's because we're in that kind of always on culture, and everything has to be done, immediately. I don't know if sometimes people don't have time to think, or it's just, well, as you said, like, the economy's not great, I'll just take every project. And you know what, I'll undercut to win that project because, I've got my budget my target to meet. I feel that, I sadly, I also feel that there's a lot more companies that perhaps being a bit more ruthless, or not leading with integrity.
yeah, and I think the flip side as well, particularly when you're running your own business, or you're a freelancer or solopreneur, the flip side of knowing your values is also knowing your value, and being able to say, as you say, no to the wrong clients, or not undercut people, or not lower your price just because somebody else has. Because half the time someone's done that out of desperation and they won't be able to deliver it anyway. So, there's at least a reasonable chance that you're going to win the business eventually either way.
Exactly. And I understand, as a new business, I'm sure to win business, to have them in your portfolio, to be able to talk about them on social media, I'm sure, and maybe I probably did it myself, you do discount at the beginning because you just want that project. But now I don't, because it's 25 years of worth of what I've done. If I need to I won't discount. I'll maybe add something in extra, rather than discount. But yes, and I think that's the experience of 25 years and knowing your worth versus a newbie.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know about new businesses. I suppose relative to you, I'm still new. 5 and a bit years now, but
Great.
I still struggle with that today. And what I'm learning, perhaps slower than I should have, is cutting your prices or offering discounts to try and win the business is a double-edged sword. And it only works, maybe half the time. Because as soon as you show you're willing to lower your price, in the mind of the customer, you're therefore worth that much less. And they think they're getting that much less, and that maybe you're not confident of what you're doing, or you don't understand, or you can't give them the answers they need. So yeah, I try to avoid that as well. But yeah, it is a temptation, and it is a difficult one.
Yes. And then you bring the whole kind of cultural angle to it, which in certain cultures, negotiation is part of before you sign on the dotted line, negotiation is part of your takes place. So you've kind of also got to bring that kind of cultural angle into it.
Well, I mean, by that logic, you start higher, don't you?
Yes.
Not lower. So,
yes.
yeah,
It's
a minefield.
You end up at the level that you would have.
Yeah, it is a minefield. I think one of my favourite things on this subject is the kind of the go away prices. Like if you don't want the work, you just put 5 times the price up.
Yes. I haven't done that yet, but I've heard quite a few people do it, and then surprisingly, they've actually won one or two of the projects, and then think, okay, fine, we'll do it then.
Yeah, I've done it once or twice and didn't win.
Okay,
but that was fine.
Yes, exactly. The point is you didn't want them. Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I think that maybe leads us quite nicely into the next question about the kind of the international perspective, because running 2 businesses in 2 different countries. First of all, your air miles must be impressive.
Yes, they are.
But I mean, what else has that taught you from that perspective as an entrepreneur, particularly about like mistakes to avoid, and how do you keep all the plates spinning?
Great question. I think that cultural adaptability is important. I think we can't have the view that what works in one city is going to work in another city. You have to look at each city differently. So the way they conduct business, their cultural norms. I mean, there's so many things, whether it's commission, negotiation, gifting, alcohol, no alcohol. I mean, it's trying to understand what is the culture that you're working with, what is correct. And I think people kind of underestimate that and just think, well, this worked well in the capital city of London, is going to work in Dubai, but that's not the case. I think also a mistake to avoid is don't underestimate the power of local networks. So you may come from, a really large, successful organization in the UK, but if you're going to be working here, you do need local people to help support you, to share, what's the do's and don'ts. So I think that's something that's important. That consumer behavior, and it's also the real thing is that balance between global and local, and that's the important thing of how to get that balance so that you are culturally sensitive. But I'd say the main thing is don't just presume that one thing works in one city, it'll work in another. And that's in fact why this month actually I'm launching a new consultancy, the Dubai's Insider Route, roadmap, and is trying to help businesses, because you've probably heard there's a lot of businesses from the UK moving to the Middle East or looking to the Middle East. And I've realized through conversations with people wanting to move here or expand here that they don't know the local knowledge. So I've actually just setting up a service to help them with their marketing, because what works here is not necessarily going to work there.
That's interesting. So I was reading an article about this from the leadership point of view recently. I think it was in the quarterly journal magazine that the Institute of Leadership puts out. There was an article in there exactly about this, like leadership across international lines, and particularly from the point of view of a more senior executive who's moving countries. And they talked a lot about these cultural differences as though they were like the be all and end all, and that if you don't get that right, your leadership will fail within weeks and all of this sort of thing. And I mean, I found it a little bit doom and gloom, if I'm honest. And it's interesting. So I've never had to do that myself, but I have worked across a lot of countries over the years. I've visited quite a lot. Had to do, usually in like supplier or client relationships, never direct leadership. And yes, I mean, you're right. That cultural balance has always been important. There's always been, with certain markets, it's more important than others. Like the American working culture, for example, is an adjustment. Places like India and Indonesia have their own sets of rules. Yes. China, difficult as well. Let's not name drop all of the countries, yes. But then also, like at a fundamental human level, I've always found most people, even in like somewhere like China, dare I say, where like in theory it's not even a capitalist country, is it? So their fundamental like rules of life should be totally different. But actually that wasn't my experience. It's if you talk to people on that personal level, usually they're there because they want to do a good job. They're there because they're interested or passionate in the work. They want to succeed. They want you to succeed. They want to work together to a common goal. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I've just been really lucky or spoiled that this has never been a challenge. But
no, well, I think the general, wherever you're working, it's a statement that everyone knows, people buy from people. So I think if you're a good person and you are, you're leading with integrity, you're talking about, you're selling your product or your service. I think if you're showing that you are personable and you are, you want to give out that trust and that credibility. If you're building a trust, you're building that rapport with somebody, I think wherever you are in the world, people will appreciate that. So I think that's you've obviously been doing that successfully, and that's why you've had, these good experiences. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think sort of what I did or didn't do that made it not blow up in my face. And it's easy to draw comparisons to others I saw do it really badly wrong and blew up relationships as a result. Yeah. I think the main thing that was different, if I had to put my finger on it, was I didn't try to impose my expectations on the situation.
Yeah.
And if you just have that conversation about, so what, what's important to you, what are you looking to get out of this project or whatever, and you just treat them like an equal, whoever it is. I mean, yes. It doesn't have to be someone from a different country or a different culture, frankly. It could just be someone in your own team. And I think I don't know, I have a thing where I draw generalizations too easily, and I'm aware of this bias, but I also feel like I haven't seen any evidence yet to disprove this approach. And then where I've seen it go horribly wrong was someone go, I won't say who it was or what country the people were from, but there was a very specific cultural expectation that we all knew about. And this person chose to go into that room and deliberately run roughshod over that. And as a result, the relationship collapsed. And that was, I still to this day don't know why they did that.
Yes. Yeah.
We had a conversation beforehand as well. We're like, it's very important in this culture not to do that. First thing they did when they walked in the room was did that. Yeah. And the rest of us were just like,
And as we know, first impressions count. So if you've already upset somebody culturally, it's very difficult to then kind of backtrack and get it back on. But I think
Absolutely.
otherwise, even just generally knowing these kind of cultural traditions, like timekeeping and punctuality, is a big one. You know, being an Indian, British Indian, and also now, you know, being in Dubai, you know, that punctuality is important, and to understand it and not think, well, if someone's 15 minutes late, I'm leaving. It's not trying to be disrespectful, but it is part of the culture. So there are things like that as well. To have that knowledge, I think, is important. And like we talked about, negotiating, you know, if in certain cultures negotiation is expected, then you need to have that mindset rather than thinking, no, my price is my price, and you know, you're not going to be there. So I think that awareness is important, cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity.
Something else that I think is quite important as well. I guess it's the same thing. It's just saying it in a different way, but is being flexible, forgiving, even if someone missteps in terms of your cultural expectations, and kind of giving them the forgiveness or the grace that you might want in return if you
Yeah,
make the same mistake. And again, I think a lot of people don't do that. They're stuck in their mindset of, well, that's not the way we do business here.
very
You
true.
should have known, therefore we're not going to work together. Yeah, it's being a bit flexible, a little bit forgiving.
I agree.
Yeah, the punctuality one. I could spend a whole episode complaining about punctuality.
Yeah.
Something else I'd love to ask you about is your perspective on remote work. Because again, I feel like these multiple companies to start with. I mean, you can't be in both places at the same time.
Right.
So there must be a remote angle somewhere. And also they're in different countries. So yeah, I mean, what's your perspective on remote work? I'm guessing you've been doing it a lot longer than COVID, unlike most of us. So what have you learned about it?
Correct. So remote working really works well for me, and yes, it was definitely before COVID. For me, I think it's that trust, with that you've selected the right person to be part of your team. And listen, I'm not perfect. I've definitely hired the wrong people in my 25 years. But those people that are good, I'm really nurturing. So as I said, my senior designer with me 15 years. And I think that's, to me, that's what's important, not micromanaging, but also empowering them. So for example, I'll give you an example. So Kirsty's on my team. She started as an intern, first job after university during COVID. And I've nurtured that relationship so that she's with me now. It's been 4 years. And it's a really good relationship. I've given her, she's in the UK, I'm here in Dubai currently. And I've given her that power to kind of run certain projects. Of course, I'm there in the background, you know, to check things, but I've given her that power, and I know she really appreciates that, because actually she wrote a testimonial as part of my 25 years, and that she was saying is that by giving her that chance, as her first job, you know, she says is a game changer. It's given her confidence. She likes the fact that it's a remote working, and you know, it suits us. So I think having that trust, not micromanaging, I think that's really important. I think also when you're remote working, I think there's a risk of it being very transactional. So I've really tried to build in that kind of human element and asking my team, how are they? You know, not just work related, but actually taking an interest in their life. I think that's important. Also being aware of course, time difference, but also religious celebrations and festivals. So that's important. So, you know, that'll be blocked out, that they've got holiday time during that time. And, you know, I may, you know, gift them at that time because that's more meaningful for them than, let's say, Christmas. So kind of that appreciation, again, that kind of goes back to that culture and international, is important. So definitely remote works for me. Technology has been a real help. You know, shared programs, having, you know, Zoom, Teams has been very useful. So remote work has worked for me, because I, to be honest, I wouldn't be able to run this. I wouldn't be able to run either business without having trust and having staff remotely, because it just wouldn't be possible. As you said, 2 cities, 2 businesses. So for me, it's definitely worked. And I think communication is key, that clear communication, being very transparent, I think is also important.
So I have to ask as well, like,
Yes.
what's your What's your take on the whole return to office conversation?
Yeah. So, well, and it's a conversation I had a lot when I was in London a few weeks ago. So, as an entrepreneur, so a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs, founders, and they really want their staff back in. And so they're saying to me, "Oh, Vaishali, they're only coming in whatever the minimum is. So 1, 2, 3 days, but actually we want them in 5 days because they are more productive and it's accounts and we're there and we're building the team." So I totally understand why my entrepreneur friends do want everyone to return to work and be in the, under the same roof. For me, let's say, I think if I wasn't moving around, I think I would want my star. I think I'd want my team at least 3 days next to me. I think I would want that. But for me, what I have works very, very well. But if I think, no, I don't actually, because if I think before I set up my Dubai base, I still did work remotely with my team in India. Even in the UK, they would come in maybe 2, 3 days a week, face to face. But I always found those actually really productive days. And then they'd work the other days from home. It's a
It's
difficult
an
one,
interesting
isn't
one,
it?
isn't
Yeah.
it? So the productivity argument, I've yet to see evidence that backs that up. So I'd love to know more about that and what leads them to say that. Because I think, I don't know, I don't want to be unfair to anyone.
Yes.
But I think it's an assumption. It's difficult for me as well because
Yes.
I haven't worked in an office since before COVID. I went remote at end of 2019 and I work by myself now and have ever since. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I find it really interesting though
Yes,
as well.
yes. I think that the days that I have worked with my team face to face, I do find that we're productive because we're sitting next to each other, we're looking at screens, we're sharing, we're building rapport. We'll do let's do a quick behind the scenes, take some photos for social media. I do find it's productive. So I feel from that team building, as I said, these behind the scenes that you wouldn't be doing necessarily for yourself. I find that helps. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So I don't dispute
cool.
that. However, the bit I'm not convinced about is if everyone was full time in the office, would those 2 or 3 days where you're currently face to face and are really productive, does that automatically mean that you would be all 5 of those days? Because I think the answer to that is no, because it's not how we work, is it? I mean, nobody's all on all the time. And you do have those peaks and troughs in your working week where sometimes you just need alone time to do focused work. And I think that's why hybrid is so appealing to me as well. If I was doing it again, that's the way I'd go, because you have that great collaborative, productive time where you have the face-to-face days and then everyone splits off for the rest of the week or whatever, gets all of the tough detail concentration work done before you meet up again the next week, and then it's just a repeating cycle. And maybe this speaks about the sort of offices I used to work in, but in my experience, an office is the worst place to do work.
Yeah, and as a creative, sometimes my best ideas are when I'm at a walk, in the spa, in the shower. So I also understand from a creative point of view, it's not just, oh gosh, we've got to now get our ideas together. I think what I find is, I think if you had, let's say, 3 days working together in an office, I think to me that's work, that would work, and the hybrid would work. When I hear of people saying, oh well, we're doing 1 day in, or we're doing, what's the minimum that I need to be in? To me, just that question of the minimum wanting to be in, to me already means that they're not getting that whole kind of team vibe. So I think 3 days for me, I think would work. 3 days working with me and then 2 days doing their own thing.
Yeah, I think another nail you've just hit on the head there. It depends on the type of work.
Yes.
People are doing, the type of business as well, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to work for a coffee shop, is it?
Yes.
But, yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know if there is an answer. I think it's going to depend on the business, isn't it? Which feels like a cop-out to say that. But,
No, but I think that's realistic. If you're working in a hotel to carry on your coffee shop, you have to be there. You can't be doing housekeeping from your house.
No, exactly. Yeah, and from a leadership perspective as well, I feel like if people are looking for whatever the minimum is, they have to be in your presence. That's a red flag anyway.
I completely agree.
For all sorts of reasons, like either you're in the wrong team or they're in the wrong team. But either way, it's not about remote work at that point.
Exactly. And I understand flexibility, childcare, and which is where it's important to understand for your team what they need, so you can actually find a solution for them. So like that again, it's about being flexible and what works best for your team, so that you can bring out the best in them, so they bring out the best, for the business.
Absolutely, yes, very well said. And to call back to what you said right at the beginning, I think about it being about trust, really, and finding the right people, making sure you have trust in them. And I think that for me, like remote work, in office, hybrid, whatever method you're choosing, or whatever the business owner is arguing for or against, ultimately, and I've been saying this since day one of the pandemic, because it's been frustrating me ever since. If you trust your people, it doesn't matter where they work, whether you can see them. If you don't, it's not a remote work problem.
Correct.
And I feel like that's where the narrative gets muddy for me. And that's where this argument doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway.
Exactly.
Put the soapbox away.
No, but I agree. I agree with you. Trust is so key. It's so key. I wouldn't be able to be celebrating 25 years if I didn't have trust in my team.
Absolutely. And trust is reciprocal as well. If they feel trusted, then they will trust, and therefore they'll do more work, better work, longer work, harder work, etc.
Exactly. So. They know they're going to get paid. In the pandemic, for example, for the stationery business, I didn't raise an invoice for 18 months because no weddings were taking place. When it was allowed 30 weddings, I was focusing on large kind of Asian and cultural weddings, which you'd never have 30 people. So for 18 months, I didn't raise an invoice, but I still paid the team.
Well done. I'm glad you were able to as well.
Yeah. I had creative ID, but I was just, look, it's not their fault. They also need to continue doing things. So, yeah.
I think let's end this segment with a positive question, because I feel like we got a bit, not negative, but not as much fun on that question. It's interesting academically, but so what is the best thing about what you do? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning?
For me, it is making a difference. It is helping my clients, whether they are a startup and then they've got sometimes clients have come to me with just an idea, literally kind of scribbled some idea, and it's actually taking that idea, running with it, creating a brand and creating something tangible and seeing them fly. That to me gives me so much pleasure. It could be businesses that have been in business maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and then they want to kind of ramp up and take themselves to the next level. So for me, that's what drives me, because I love to be able to help people, and I love to take that, I'm very businessy, so to take that idea and actually make it something successful. I love that. And because I give 10% of profits to charity, the more business I get, I'm actually, helping charities. So for me, I love that. And for me, it's also the freedom of running my own businesses in a way that I'm proud of. I love that fact that it's my business, and I can take it where I want. So again, as we talked about adapting from design for print to now digital design, digital marketing, the opportunity of setting up a base in Dubai, all of that, I thrive on that those opportunities are there, and I'm the decision maker, and I can kind of go with them. So I'd say those are kind of my what I love best about the businesses.
Yeah, that freedom it's hard to put into words how much better it is.
It's true. I mean,
it's just like the simple day-to-day things. Like I don't have to sit in a meeting with 8 other directors and waste 4 hours to come to a decision about can we buy coffee for the office or something like. Yeah, it's it completely changes your life, doesn't it?
It does. But I also understand that the entrepreneur life is not for everyone. I've got some friends that are really successful, but they're just like, there's no way we could set up our own business. We want to just, progress in someone else's business, and that's what suits them. So I think it's two different types of people. It's not for everyone, but for me, I love it.
No, that's true. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a question of priorities, isn't it? And I've been that person as well, like where the only priority was paying the bills and nothing else mattered until it did.
But you recognized that and then did something about it?
Yes and no. Yeah, there was a big element of it that at the time didn't really feel like a choice. But yeah, I don't want to bore the listeners with that story they've heard before. Let's talk a bit more specifically about leadership.
Yes.
So I've asked you about your biggest business lessons, and I feel I'm already anticipating there'll be crossover in this answer. But what's the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned in your whole career so far?
I'd say continuous learning. So whether that is, for me, attending workshops, training. So, for example, last week, I attended a workshop on personal branding and AI. Every day is a school day. It's about kind of learning. And also, for me, it's also about learning from my team. And that's, again, because my leadership style is yes, I will guide, but it's not just about giving instructions. It's also, I want to learn, and it's very collaborative from my team. So, for example, Kirsty, she is much younger than me, and we are now, for my stationery business, we are on TikTok. So I am learning from her about tech, about trending audio, and what works. And I've given her passwords to the TikTok account. So she manages that, which she loves, because again, she's got that independence as one project from A to Z. She's managing that project. Of course, content, pictures, things that she needs from me, of course, she'll ask me, but she's running that project, and I'm learning so much. And by being open to that, I'm now on another platform that is suitable for the stationery business. Whereas I could have said, actually, no, I don't know anything about TikTok. I don't think it's for me. And that's it. But actually, by listening that, look, I think TikTok is going to be good for us and going to be good for the business, by having that kind of open, collaborative leadership style, I think that's, to me, that's what's really important. And actually what I like is, as well as we've talked about the kind of the cultural diversity that I have in my team, that, in different cities, but also the kind of, I'm going to sound old here, but the intergenerational, by having different generations, I think that's also what makes it exciting for me, and makes a small business dynamic.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different kinds of diversity on there. There's a diverse amount. Oh, there we go. But I mean, that intellectual diversity as well, and expertise even. Expertise feels like a no-brainer, doesn't it? I don't think anyone would argue, no, everyone has to have the same knowledge and experience. Maybe some people would. I don't know. Don't hold out much hope for their businesses, though. Yeah, and I have to say, so I am also on TikTok with the podcast. I do see the posts. I'm by no means an expert, but I do think she's doing a great job from what I've seen. So
Thank you.
And every day's a school day is one of my favourite sayings.
Oh, is it? Okay. I just used it the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the mentors I had early in my career, that was one of his mantras. Like every time, and he was a bit older than me, quite a bit older than me. I won't shame his age, but he was a generation above me. Let's put it that way. That's the nice way, I think. And even he was so open to learning things, and he'd had such an impressive career by the time I'd met him as well. And yeah, he was still learning. And every time he came across something that he didn't know before, he'd be like, oh, every day's a school day. And that just kind of got embedded in my head as well.
But, and at 25 years, I don't know everything, and I don't even want to pretend that I know everything. I'm still learning, and I think that's that's positive, because otherwise you can say, oh well, I've done 5 years, I've done 10 years, kind of, I know it, I know what works. But the world is not like that. Again, going back to being adaptive, agile. responsive. So the world is kind of changing, and to me, we need to kind of learn learn the future. I mean, AI, if you'd asked me 25 years ago, I wouldn't even thought anything about AI, but, attending workshops, seeing, how it can work. So yeah, for me, it's a continuous learning.
Yeah, yeah. I love the lifelong learner phrase as well. Is a good one, and it's so important for leadership, but also for business owners. For I think just everyone. To me, if I hear somebody say, "I know everything I need to know about this or that," what I hear is, "I've given up on that." And especially things like leadership and business, where the people aspect of it and where the technology involved, the pace of change, you can never be able to say that and to have it be true.
Yeah.
Maybe for like 5 minutes until something else changes.
Yeah, because if someone said that to me, I'd say, well, you're so stuck in your ways. It's your way or the highway. There's no other, you're not open to anything else if you think you know it all.
Yeah. And even if their way works, how long will it last?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's such a short-sighted mindset. It reminds me of like Blockbuster versus Netflix and things like this. Okay, so this might be a tricky question, but I always love the answers I get to this one, so I keep asking it. What would you say has been your best experience of being led?
Okay, so I worked in my family business for 10 years, as well as running my businesses. I didn't sleep much. And I was a group head of marketing, so 180 staff, 8 offices, and I reported into the group managing director. So I would say that was the best example. He probably had a tricky job because chairman's daughter, and which is why it was very good that I wasn't reporting to my father. I was reporting to him, to the group managing director. And what I loved is that he gave me trust, and which really kind of empowered me, and is what I'm implementing in my businesses. That he had that confidence in me, that I would do the right thing. He would be there to guide me. He gave me good feedback, but he let me kind of run my section as marketing, which then allowed me, the team that were reporting into me, it then allowed that to be a good relationship. So I'd say that was the best example, because he gave me confidence. He, I still had appraisals and all of that. Didn't matter that I was, daughter of the boss. I still had my appraisals, and which I was very nervous for. I still had to, I asked for a pay rise. I didn't get it. So I found it was very fair. I found he was very fair. And I think, that's the style of leadership that I've brought into my businesses.
And what struck me as you were talking there was the parallels to the way you were talking about how you lead, and particularly Kirsty as well. It was Kirsty, wasn't it?
Yes.
Good work memory from like 10 minutes ago. And I think that's one of the things as well that I really love about leadership, is that leaders create leaders. Maybe in this day and age, it's only the great leaders that create leaders, but still, like, there's that legacy piece. There's that making the next generation of leaders better than I was, or better than my generation was.
And that's that sharing mentality. Yes.
Yeah.
Sharing
mentality,
exactly. I like, yes.
And passing on that feeling of how it is to be led by someone like that as well, and then helping people to replicate it with. And yeah, I just love that whole cyclical aspect of it. So yeah, great example, great story. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so slightly conscious of time. I've lost track of it, as I always do. We've got a few more questions, but are you okay time-wise?
Yes, I'm totally fine. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so the next one then. Why would you say that leadership skills are important for any founder or business owner?
I think it's key. It's key. Having leadership gives you that kind of that direction, that vision that your team are going to then be taking on. Decision making, you need a leader to lead and to make those decisions, to set the values for the business. I think that's really important, to get that team culture, what's important to you. Again, we talked about values, and inspiring others, because if you lead by example, that you're inspiring others. I think it's also important because when you scale your business, you start as a founder, solopreneur, but then you take on a team, and then really your leadership is really important, and how you're going to bring that team together, how you're going to get that loyalty together, and those values that you will pass on to people you collaborate with, peers, well-wishers. I think that's important. Having a strong leader also builds that trust that we talked about, which is key. So for me, a founder needs to have those kind of leadership skills. I think it is very important, kind of at the core of the business.
I obviously agree with that. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. Yeah. I think it's that, particularly that vision and values, and which leads into culture, doesn't it? And we talk about leadership in that context of creating the environment for others to succeed. And I think those three aspects are where that has to start. And yet it still to this day surprises me how many people don't think about that until, if they ever do, but if they do, it will be after something's gone wrong, or after somebody's behaved in a way they didn't expect or didn't want, and so on. And it's, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's definitely easier if you do it at the beginning.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. This, in most cases, is either the most difficult or the easiest question that anyone gets.
Okay.
So we'll see where you land. Okay. So it's the time travel question. If you could go back in time, start your career over again, is there anything you would do differently?
Whew. So I'm not somebody who has regrets. I think everything that I've done, including the mistakes I've made, has led me to the person I am, and has led me to the founder that I am and the business that I'm in. But I would say, if I was like talking to my younger self and doing the time travel, I would think about personal branding. Now, 25 years ago, I don't think the word even existed, or people weren't talking about it. But I realized as the founder, yes, I have this great team that I've talked about, but the founder, people want me. I'm the face of the business. Yes, I deliberately didn't call either of the businesses my name. And that I made that decision even 25 years ago, because I knew I wanted a team and I didn't want my name as the business. But people still want me, as we said, people buy people. So I think the importance of personal branding, and not kind of hiding behind the computer, or not realizing the importance of actually doing podcasts like yours, and kind of being visible for the founder, just not the work. So I'd say I would start personal branding earlier. I think that would be my advice.
It is an odd one, isn't it? I feel like social media has made that so much more important, and maybe that's why it's happened in the time period that it has. And there's a definite parallel there. But yeah, but then I'm also quite often suspicious that, and we've all seen these as well, that the sort of the entrepreneur influencer type, where they're probably not really either of those things, but they behave like they have 20 million followers.
And that's where authenticity comes in. Authenticity and integrity.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was going to say, it's the way you do it is important as well as doing it. But yeah, I'm very similar to you. I used to hide in other people's businesses consciously.
But now what you're doing, you can't hide. You're the host.
This is true.
So how have you found it? I'll ask you, how have you found that? Putting yourself forward.
So I'm probably kind of like you. Like, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, what do you think you'd be doing in 10 years? I mean, I don't know what my answer would have been, but this wouldn't have been in the top 10.
Sure.
Like, I would never have foreseen myself doing a podcast. I don't think I even knew what podcasts were 10 years ago. Did they exist? They must have.
I don't know.
They must have.
Yeah.
They can't be that new. Yeah.
I wasn't listening to any.
No, me neither. Yeah, and then as for like being the public face of a business, I think that would have provoked a reaction akin to terror in 10 years ago, David. But there we go. You know, it's funny what you do when you're running your own business and it's on your own behalf.
Yes.
And for me, it's that integrity piece. I think, again, not to disparage former employers, but I wouldn't have felt comfortable associating my personal brand with their brand. Whereas now they're one and the same effectively anyway. So it's a lot easier. Don't have to stress about that.
Yes.
Leadership heroes.
Time's running out. Time's flying. Other cliches also available. Only one question left for you. This one's my favourite one.
Okay.
So it's leadership heroes. If you had to pick one person, but it could be anyone you could think of. They could be alive or dead, past or present, real or fictitious, but it's someone who, in your opinion, perfectly embodies leadership. So who would that be for you and why?
It'd be my father. Yeah, before I get emotional. It'd be my father because he led by example. I saw everything, as I said, at the breakfast table, dinner table, which I've put into my business. He was very much about people. He had obviously a big responsibility running this family business for so many years, but I saw how he genuinely cared for his staff, his clients, and the community, the whole kind of the charitable angle. So I'd say definitely him. And I'm very fortunate to see firsthand how he was doing that. And that kind of the making the difference that resonates with me, the integrity. It's not easy not to have all that responsibility, but I felt that he did it in a fair way, and that kind of fairness is important. And again, over so many years, as I said, the business 103 years. So what he took on, and then how he grew the business. I'd say he'd be my leadership hero and somebody that I respect and learning from.
My favourite answers are always ones that you know personally. I mean, there's some great academic discussions around like sci-fi characters and people from history, and Abraham Lincoln comes up a lot, and Jesus comes up a lot. But they're not, I don't know, they're less tangible somehow. And so I love answers like this where it's someone who you've experienced their leadership for, well, because it's your father most of your life, if not all of your life. Probably can't remember all of it, but but also like because you've experienced that leadership, I feel like it makes it more meaningful of an answer. And it's just lovely as well when it's a family member. I love those answers.
No, completely, because we can all read lots of leadership books and things, but you're reading it or you're listening as a podcast, but there's that distance. Whereas here is somebody you see, morning, noon, and night growing up, and you see what they do and how they've been agile and how, how also they've been very stressed and things go wrong and the economy goes wrong, and then what you have to do with that and how that has a bearing on what you do and how you try not to bring that back home and all of those things. So, I'd say definitely my leadership hero. I love that question, but I'd say definitely leadership hero.
No, absolutely. I think that's why it's so much better of an answer, because you've seen like the highs and the lows. Whereas with a lot of historical figures, for example, you only read about that, like their greatest day, their best achievements. You never hear about like the decades of, I don't know, whatever, mistakes, depression, like destitution, etc. So,
and you don't see that behind the scenes. You see the kind of the polished, the version that you want to have shown, you want to have visible, rather than the rough and ready and the behind the scenes and all the other bits behind.
Exactly. So another one that comes up a lot is Churchill, and so I mean he's a great one for that exact problem, isn't he? Because we all see him like on this pedestal of history's greatest leader or whatever. But actually, like you read about some other contemporary accounts that weren't written by him, of which there aren't that many, funnily enough. He was a bit of a four-letter word to people.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Jobs, another one, like judged by his greatest achievements and the business today and all of that. But you read some of the accounts of how he was interpersonally from people who worked with him. Doesn't strike me as a great leader.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a tough one, though, because you can't argue with their achievements either.
Exactly. And you know, I'm on a Mac now. My whole work
revolves, Me too, yeah.
revolves around Apple. So I will be biased and say that, you know, he brought all these products to make my life and my leadership and my business easier.
Yeah. And there, I think, is perhaps where, as modern society, we get leadership a bit wrong, is conflating it with being good at business or being ruthless or designing great things, etc. That, you know, leadership is about the people. How do those people in that organization feel working for them? In a lot of cases, probably not great. Does that diminish their other achievements? No. Does the achievement mean they're automatically a great leader? Also, no, in my opinion.
No.
There we go. On the soapbox again. I said I'd put it away.
No, it's great. Podcast support.
Absolutely. Well, Vaishali, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a great conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing so much with us as well. One final small question I will ask is, if anyone wants to learn more about you, perhaps work with one or both of your businesses, where can they go? What are the addresses, etc.?
So I'd probably say LinkedIn's the best. If you just look for me as Vaishali Shah and then FCIM, because I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So Vaishali Shah, FCIM. Best to find me there. Otherwise, I am on all the social platforms, including TikTok, at Ananya Cards for the stationery and Creative ID Social for the branding and marketing.
Okay, well, I'll put a selection of those links down in the show notes for people to find easily. Probably won't be room for all of them because you've got so many, haven't you? But excellent. Well, that's all we've got time for. Thank you again so much. Have a great rest of your day.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Likewise. Thank you again so much, Vaishali. What a conversation. Loved all of that. We touched on so many things, and it was really generous of you to be so open with us about sharing your entrepreneurial journey, the experiences you've had over those years, the lessons you've learned about leadership, business, and more. Listener, viewer, as always, do check those show notes, find the links, and go and visit Vaishali's website, learn more about the work that she does. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. And if you are a new leader, if you're in a moment of transition in your leadership journey, then do come and join us at the Integrity Leaders online leadership community. Come and visit the Starship Integrity and become one of our crew members, one of our crewmates. There's plenty to learn. There's people to meet, other leaders that you can share your experiences and lessons with. There's a ton of resources on there. And the overall goal or ethos of the community is to help you find clarity around your leadership and your leadership values, to give you a supportive environment to raise, discuss, problem solve, etc. And perhaps one of the best ways for me to explain what the community is all about is to read you one of the testimonials from an existing member that I received this week. So Steph says, being part of the Integrity Leaders community is fantastic. The coffee mornings are fun and a relaxed way to connect with other leaders in the community. And then you have the engine room, where you can jump into the Integrity Leaders courses and learn at your own pace. David has built an awesome community that works for everyone, whether you're a new leader just finding your feet or an experienced one looking for fresh perspectives. Isn't that a lovely testimonial? Thank you so much, Steph. Well, unfortunately, that's all I've got time for today. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you'll be back again next week when I'll be talking with Gary Parsons about mental health at work, selfish leadership, and plenty more besides. So until then, might see you in Integrity Leaders in the community online very soon. And either way, remember, as always, be a leader, not a boss.